What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. I'm not saying this would change life for the Lakers, but this would be a different type of Lakers team if they made a few of these trades. Now, one of these trades that is being proposed, well, I should say all the trades that are being proposed is in regards to Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis is the piece that the Lakers utilize or look at in a way where he's supposed to be the focal point of the offense. LeBron is supposed to be the second best player, and Anthony Davis has supposed to taken over as the first best player on the team. So far, he hasn't. So far, he hasn't lived up to that. So far, if you look at him, he really can't carry that. And it's probably only due to injury, because his talent is immense. He's immensely talented, but the injuries hurt. But one of the trades that'll change life, or I don't think they'll change life for the Lakers, but definitely make them look like a different team, is if they actually made a trade with the Blazers for Damian Lillard. Now, of course, they made a trade for Damian Lillard. It would probably be, maybe Anthony Davis and maybe one other person on the Lakers, maybe like a Taylor Horton Tucker or somebody like that. Which, if you think about the Blazers, what do they really have to lose? They already let go of CJ McCollum. They're already trying to change life there in Portland. Why not change life and send Dame somewhere where he can possibly have a chance to win? Not saying that he would have a chance to win with the Lakers, but I'd say his chances there are better than it is in Portland. Simply because I think Portland is just at a point where they're just trying to rebuild. They got Anthony Simons and a couple other young players, and they looked pretty good last year for a stretch of games until, reality set in that they're really not that good of a team. And, Damian Lillard, he's been in the league for a long time now, seemed like, so it's time for him to really be on a team with more of a bigger name anyway, a bigger market. Because, the notion a couple years ago was, him going to New York, or, him going to maybe even LA, as well. You know what I'm saying? He just needs to be in a bigger market anyway. And, Anthony Davis, a lot of people don't want to say it, but maybe it's time to move on from Anthony Davis, because, you're not going to get nothing more out of him than what you've gotten, probably, because I don't think he's going to be any better than a player than what he is now, which he is a good player. But at the same time, I don't know if I don't know if he can elevate his game to another level, because he can't stay healthy enough to do so. And on top of that, he didn't even take over the number one spot on the Lakers yet. And even though LeBron is older and LeBron is giving him the keys of the kingdom, he still can't do it. And it's like that's taking more years off LeBron playing. Maybe LeBron can play another 2 years if he don't play with Anthony Davis. You see what I'm saying? If he keeps playing with Anthony Davis, this probably might be his last season, probably, because it's just so much headache and heartache dealing with the fact that you're playing with a top 5 caliber player, and they can't stay on the court at all. They get injured from week to week, month to month. Anthony Davis is just so unreliable. I don't even know how they won that championship in the bubble. And now, as much as he get hurt, as much as he's non-available, it really puts an asterisk beside the championship in the bubble, because they had a 4-month layoff, and then they went into a bubble where the rules and everything was so much different. And then, you look at Kobe Bryant, the situation and everything, they were motivated by that. It's almost like, wow, you know what I'm saying? If it wasn't for all that happened, Anthony Davis wouldn't even have played or been healthy enough to do so. Hell, if you give any player 4 months off, they're going to be healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an ample enough time for them to, get themselves going and then start the NBA playoffs. That's a blessing for most players. If the NBA season started again right now, and they ended the NBA season, you had 4 months off before the playoffs started. Well, that'd be a blessing for every team. So it's like, now that you look at that bubble situation, it really, really benefited the Lakers a lot. But regardless of that, it benefited Anthony Davis the most, because that's when he played the most. He was the most healthy, was in that little stretch. Because ever since then, he hasn't been healthy, or he hasn't been the player he was in the bubble since 2 years ago. So it's like, maybe it's time to really actually move on from Anthony Davis. And if that's the case, Portland is definitely a good destination in regards to acquiring somebody from there who can give the Lakers some new light and some new revamping in regards to the way they play and how they're looked upon going into the season and what they can do offensively. Because now you would pair Damian Lillard with LeBron, and that would take a lot of pressure off LeBron James. LeBron would probably be ecstatic to have somebody like that, because Damian Lillard definitely would be the number one scoring option and wouldn't mind doing it, and definitely would play to that level. And he would usually he's more healthy than what he was this past year. So I mean, when he's healthy, he's right. He's definitely a top player in the league, no doubt about that. Now, another proposed trade that's out there in regards to a blockbuster trade as well, it would be Anthony Davis sent to the Utah Jazz. And he will be sent to the Utah Jazz for Donovan Mitchell and maybe one more player on the Utah Jazz. Not sure who it would be. Maybe somebody far on the bench like Rudy Gay or somebody like that. But regardless, that trade there, I'm not going to say that trade would make a difference at all with the Lakers. I just don't feel like Donovan Mitchell is really there yet. I don't feel like his game is really evolved to the point to play with somebody like LeBron and take it to that level, or be taken to that level right away. I feel like he'll be there maybe like 1 or 2 years from now. But then again, playing with LeBron James, being around him, that can definitely make a difference in his game as well, because he'd be learning from arguably the greatest player of all time, or one of the greatest players of all time. But regardless of, I don't feel like Donovan Mitchell is ready right now to be a number one guy and can take a team to new heights like that. I mean, I feel like, what they did in Utah collectively as a team, they were really good a couple years ago when they had that number one seed, and, they got, they were number one seed throughout the season. Donovan Mitchell did play good that season. They were the number one seed, but throughout the season, you watched the team, they was just really well-rounded. They had Jordan Clarkson, and they had Bogdanovich. Of course, Rudy Gobert was the defensive player of the year again, I believe. But I feel like the biggest part of the reason why that team was, so good, it wasn't because of Donovan Mitchell. Like I said, it wasn't just because of Donovan Mitchell. I felt like it was more or less because they were well-rounded and Quinn Snyder had all the pieces he needed. And like I said, ever since Joe Ingles have been gone from that team, have you noticed that team doesn't look anything like the number one seed that they were a couple years ago? Ever since they lost Joe Ingles, they don't even look like the same team. Joe Ingles basically gave them that balance, because Joe Ingles can defend, and he can knock down threes at a high clip the way Bogdanovich can. And at that time, he was knocking down threes at a higher clip than Bogdanovich, because he was more of the three-point shooter in regards to percentage, but he would make those bigger shots that Bogdanovich doesn't make. Bogdanovich makes shots, he hits threes, but he doesn't hit those big threes the way Joe Ingles did. And on top of that, you got to look at it, Joe Ingles played better defense than Bogdanovich. I mean, he just made more of an impact on the game. And this is the reason why I said, since they lost him, they weren't the same team. And you can see it this past year, they're just not. So, I mean, really, Donovan Mitchell is really good, but I mean, you look at him now, in this past season here, he didn't really look like the guy that you could depend on that can, carry you anywhere. He looks like a guy who has a lot of talent, a lot of, individualized talent, but he doesn't look like he doesn't look like he put all his offensive game all the way together to help a team win a championship. And the Lakers are trying to win a championship. They're not really trying to, just be a playoff team, even though that would be an accomplishment for them, because they didn't even make the play-in tournament, but still, they're really technically built for a championship. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell is quite at that level just yet. So I don't know if that trade would necessarily be good, but I mean, I can understand why, the Lakers might actually be looking at other options like that, because, I mean, really, they might just be looking for somebody to stay healthy. I mean, he definitely stays more healthy than Anthony Davis. So the more you're on the court, the more you'll develop, the better your game will be. So, I mean, hey, that in 2020 hindsight, maybe it's not a bad idea, but I just don't think it's the right idea that's going to help them to get a championship. So another trade that really might be a good fit that I think for the Lakers, of course, it's definitely involving the Lakers and the Wizards, and that would be Anthony Davis swapped out for Bradley Beal. Now, I think Bradley Beal is a very, very good offensive player, and I think he's very, very underrated simply because he's playing in Washington, and I definitely understand why, because the Washington Wizards just aren't any good. they may be your team. They may be the team that you root for, and I definitely understand that. I definitely wouldn't want to, discredit anybody who's a fan. But at the same time, they're just not a good team. They're just not a team that's going to go anywhere anytime soon. They've never been a good team. They've never been a championship team for all the years I've been looking at them, even way, way back in the day when I was young. And I remember them being the Bullets or something like that. I can't even barely remember their name. But regardless, they've never been a good team. They've never been a good team at all. And they've always had good seasons back then with Gilbert Arenas and all those people, but they never going to win a championship. Just not going to happen. So, I mean, Bradley Beal definitely can use a different scenery. Bradley Beal's been there for years. He was with John Wall one time. John Wall got basically gone or booted from the situation. Bradley Beal took over the team, and it really hasn't looked better at all. I mean, really no difference. I mean, they're just a team in the East that a lot of people don't really care about or respect because, I mean, like I said, when you go to a Washington Wizards game, a lot of times you're going there for the opposing team. I mean, I've been to 2 Washington Wizards games, and I've seen more jerseys in the stands of the opposing team rather than the home team. So what does that tell you? They're just not that good of a team, and they're just more or less a stepping stone to look at somebody else who comes into the arena. And that's just not what somebody like Bradley Beal should have to go through, because he's definitely a star player in the league. And I definitely think that he can definitely help a team win a championship. I mean, his offensive ability is really good. He's pretty decent on defense. And like I said, he's a really, really good sound player. Definitely an all-star caliber player. And I think, I don't really see like superstar in him, but I mean, if he was paired with the right team like the Lakers with LeBron James showing him the ropes and, preparing him more for, the NBA life after LeBron leaves, I mean, you never know. Bradley Beal can definitely take it to that next level. He definitely has the talent to do so. He's always had the talent to do so, but he just never really had the opportunity or the team to actually help propel him to that stage. So you got to understand that from that perspective. And, I respect Bradley Beal. I like his game. I really like him a lot. And I definitely feel like a place like LA would be good for him. Actually, I think it would be good if he actually even, possibly even went to the Clippers. That's another trade destination for him as well. But I just think mainly overall for Bradley Beal, he needs to find a way out of Washington. I don't really care where he goes. I just feel like he needs to find a way out of Washington. I feel like once he gets out of there and get a new scenery, it'll be good for him. But at the same time, Anthony Davis for Bradley Beal, not a bad trade. I mean, Bradley Beal has had his injuries, of course, but I feel like no player's had more injuries or more setbacks than Anthony Davis over this past year or two. I don't feel like no player has. I mean, it's just maybe me, but I'm just saying the guy is just so injury prone. You can't trust anything when it comes to Anthony Davis. The talent is there, but the body, the physicality, the dog mentality, the availability is not there. And that's just something that the Lakers got to deal with until or unless they make a trade. That's the reason why I think these trades are proposed, and the Lakers will definitely have an open mind about a lot of things going into next season or before next season starts. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section. Check out my other videos as always. And hey, Khaliis out.